This is my review of where we're at with the Model 3. We predicted that it would be late, likely not till January for start of production. And Elon is saying, March-ish for the starting time frame. I think it's unfortunate. I think the scale production might be later. And we're kind of reviewing what we predicted accurately and where we go from here. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Bonjour, wie geht's, and guten Tag. As we all know, on November 2nd, Tesla came out with earnings, and Elon came out and articulated that there were some issues going on relative to the production facilities and scale production of battery packs for the Model 3. Now, the first part of my video, I wanted to review what we covered about everything happening with Model 3 being late. Then the second part will be sort of a review of what Elon had to say on the conference call along with the earnings miss. And then finally, sort of what next. So first of all, we showed you photos of the fact that they hadn't started building the factories that would make parts and feed inventory in for the Model 3 yet. So it was pretty clear that it was going to be late. The second signal of lateness that we covered was firing 700 employees. The problem that they're having is that they've built a lot of infrastructure, including supercharger stations, etc., in preparation for the Model 3, but because the car is late, you have all the infrastructure, but you don't have any cars to help pay for the infrastructure that was built. So that put Tesla in kind of a cash bind, which I think is going to be made worse by the delay being well beyond the January target that we had in mind. And so I've been sort of buzzed by a few of my folks to say they hate Elon or Tesla's horrible and all these other things, and I'd have to say that, I disagree. I think that there's a huge battle going on above the surface that we can see, but also below the surface relative to sort of folks attacking Tesla. There's plenty of hedge funds trying to tank the stock. There's plenty of competing automakers that are embarrassed that they're being outclassed by Tesla and creating all kinds of drama that makes it more difficult for them to get the job done. So I just think that it is bad news. I have to say that there's a few things I really don't understand. The first one is Elon pointed out, and we covered this, that there was a huge supply chain issue that was holding everything up. The problem I noted with this is because Tesla is 80% vertically integrated, I argued, and it's turned out to be true, that the delay had nothing to do with it had everything to do with vertical integration and nothing to do with supply chain, because when you're 80% of your supply chain, the delay is you, not anybody else. So 20% of the supply chain, like tires and the frame of the car, etc., is minimal, and therefore, that's a ridiculous comment, and he confirmed that that was not the case in terms of the delay. Now, what Elon did say was there are problems, as we shared, with the battery pack completion on an automated basis from the Gigafactory. I don't believe that one either. And there's a whole bunch of reasons. The biggest one is that one of the best analysts on Tesla actually did some research and found that Tesla is actually rebuilding robots with the technologists they have on staff to make them do things and perform in ways they don't perform for other companies. So I really think the Gigafactory is the most stable part of the supply chain right now. And what I really think the problem is something I'll call the battle of the concrete. And what the battle of the concrete is about is the fact that Elon Musk can intimidate engineers and force people to perform faster than they might otherwise. The problem you have with concrete is concrete dries and is ready to be worked with on its own time. So it takes 28 days after the pour for it to be ready to be built on a full basis. But you can start building after 1 or 2 days, but it has to dry from the outside in. So if you build a foundation and you're building with that concrete, it takes time to, one, get the feeding factories up for the Model 3, and two, once those factories are completed, let's say 60 to 90 days after you started the construction, you now have got to load up equipment on that factory floor and get it stable and ready to produce parts and or be in the supply chain to feed into the cars. So my read of this whole thing is that Tesla's vertical integration is becoming a pain in the butt because there's a lot of small and large portions that have to work together to help get these products out. And frankly, it's a huge undertaking and a lot of money, and it's not going through as predicted or at the speed predicted. Hence, the challenges we're having. Can they get over it? Absolutely. I think it's a great situation to have Model X's and S's paying the bill in the interim. It's clear that they've got a superior product in the 2170 battery and how it's performing in general. So I don't think that there's a huge amount to worry about to get there. I think they've left themselves enough runway this time in terms of pushing back the delivery times to at least get a reasonable 500,000, 2,000 units, definitely not 10,000 units, going by the March-April timeframe he talked about. So, company's not going bankrupt. I have to admit, I have a wish list for Tesla, which is they need to recap the company, meaning that why not spin off, into a wholly owned subsidiary that stock the superchargers, for example, or other components that are currently internal to Tesla, because all of this will facilitate the company being on more stable financial footing to get into the future successfully. Owning everything is a nightmare. Again, Napoleon's strategy was he wanted to be everywhere at all times, and it just was a complete disaster, and I think that's what's going on with Tesla right now. So I'm hopeful that Tesla gets through all this successfully, but I'm kind of nervous because in the back of my mind, I really think that Elon likes to push the envelope so hard that he potentially bankrupts the company. I hope that's not the case because I'd love to see the change that Tesla can help bring forward happen, but I wouldn't put it past him. So this is sort of a cleanup of everything that I'm thinking about relative to what happened with earnings and where we're at and where we're going forward. The one sort of teeny-weeny 5 or 10% issue that's lurking is there's a lot of batteries piling up right now that you can't necessarily sell in just battery packs in people's garages for storage. And the question that pops up is, why don't just use those batteries in mules or in trucks as part of the new truck delivery and then allow the trucks to roll out there because, you can load up those battery packs and make huge profits per truck out there in the field. So this could actually be a silent blessing for truck manufacturing because I think the Gigafactory is ready to rumble and put out a lot of batteries. It's just that instead of putting them in storage, why not put them someplace else where Tesla can generate revenue until Model 3, lines are ready to produce? Legitimate possibility. At any rate, I want to thank you for taking time out. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, macht's gut, au revoir, lahit road, hoda hafez. Look forward to your comments and input. Have a good evening, and thanks for now. Morning.
Good morning.
Howdy.
I have